Welcome back to Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Today we received our first major update, bringing a lot of fixes the community has been asking for, as well as performance and quality options on the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. Now there is a lot to go over in this particular video. There's these new features that we got to go over. These are miscellaneous options, balancing options, performance and stability changes, changes to the way these save games works, graphic, audio, and animation fixes, changes to the world. There's gameplay, combat, and AI fixes and adjustments. There's fixes to the quests, world events, and side activities, the user interface. There's fixes across the entire board that should drastically improve gameplay in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Now, without further ado, let's dive right into the patch notes. Now, we do have a lot of information to go over, and first we're going to go over with the new feature breakdowns, which go over the various changes to quality that you can now select in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Since the game's launch, the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X have been running with the performance options. The performance options allows the game to adapt resolution and graphics settings to maintain 60 FPS at all times. These have been these settings that we've been running on the game since launch, and I didn't realize that it was actually adapting the resolution to maintain that frame rate. But now we can actually select the option to go for quality over performance. The quality is going to enable max resolution at all times and increase the graphic settings while maintaining 30 FPS. Now, at first glance, I didn't really notice a big change here, but I definitely, after recording both on and off, obviously, you're going to notice the drop in frames. But you are going to notice that an increased resolution, sharpness, and fidelity, especially in the lighting of the game. The lighting on the quality settings is substantially better, but on the flip side, you do lose 50% of your FPS by switching to the quality mode. Now, I have to do a little bit more testing with the combat to see if the fidelity increase is worth the drop in frames. The combat doesn't feel much worse, quite frankly, with the 30 FPS drop. But, you know, some people out there are going to just absolutely love having 60 FPS. Some are just going to want their game to be as beautiful as possible. I'm a little torn between which one I like more. The lighting is substantially better with the quality preset, but at the same time, you do lose 50% of your FPS. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I will continue to show footage of both fidelity settings throughout this video, so definitely let me know what you think in the comments below. I don't know if the fidelity increase is enough to warrant the 30 FPS drop, but yeah, I don't know. Let's get into the rest of the patch. There are a few miscellaneous items here. They added a new background image to the title screen, added various VFX to enhance visuals, added an option that will automatically assign all nodes on a path when acquiring a certain skill, which is nice. They added rune categories to the rune menu. All runes are now categorized in weapon and armor runes, which is nice. We didn't have that before. Added a warning when switching from language that supports TTS to one that does not. Sliders can now be moved with left and right arrows on the M&K controllers. Increased fabric limit to 82, and added a fabric trader once the settlement has reached level 6, which is really nice. So for those of you that have been hunting down fabric, to get your settlement to level 6, you could just buy it. And then added offering altar requirements to the world map. Now, there have been some balancing changes. They updated the gear quality and gear to their correct values. Assassination damage stats now appear on the character's stat page. Removed duplicate gear from the inventory. Apparently, this is an issue a lot of people were having where they were getting duplicate armor pieces. If you did have duplicate armor pieces, they're now removed from the game. Now, heavy and light attack stats will now adjust correctly based on acquired skill nodes, and heavy attack modifiers will no longer be applied to range attacks. Now, for performance and stability, they improved stability and performance across the board on all platforms. For the Xbox Series, you get improved experience on Xbox Series X and Xbox X consoles, including screen tearing, which apparently was a major issue on the Xbox Series X and S, which is nice to see that's fixed. Now, PC has addressed the VRAM and RAM leakage issues when alt-tabbing to the desktop. I experienced some of those issues when I was playing, so it's nice to see that that has now been fixed. Now, for the save games, corrected some instances where load games would not display save games correctly. Renamed the cloud save to make it more distinguishable, which is nice, and removed cloud saves from the save menu. This will ensure it cannot be overwritten unintentionally. Now added a notification when cloud save retrieval has failed. Now for graphics, audio, and animation, we've got a few changes here. Various graphical issues have been fixed across the board. FX issues, various instances of clipping issues, which is nice. There's a lot of them. Various issues with Ivor's cloak. Tons of issues there. Hopefully a lot of the clipping is fixed on that because it looked really wonky sometimes. Various instances of player or NPC animation issues, probably like floating in the air or getting stuck in a crouch position, which is hilarious, but also super broken. Various audio issues have been fixed, lighting issues, and shadow resolution on high will now use correct values. For the world, we've got addressed various texture and object placement issues. Address some issues where players could become stuck in specific locations. Thankfully, I've never experienced that. Don't want to. Fish in Norway will now spawn in bad weather. Yeah, we had to read this one twice too. Didn't know that was a problem. And crows will no longer randomly fall from the sky in Asgard. Bad omens. So when I was live streaming in there, that was happening a lot, and it was really, really weird. So gameplay, combat, and AI has quite a few things that have been fixed. So they addressed various bow aiming issues. Improved NPC and boss behavior across the board. Hopefully they're more intelligent, which would be really nice. Added a little bit of difficulty, hopefully. NPCs will now react to players stealing, so think twice before stealing objects. Addressed an issue where dogs would start levitating when Ivor starts to pet them. That's great. Blocking sprinkled projectiles will now consume stamina as intended. Zealots that were hit with a sleep dart can now be stun attacked. Ooh, that's nice. And Zealots will no longer heal themselves while in player vicinity. Thank God. That was the most annoying thing ever. Guards who clearly saw Ivar shoot an ally will now turn hostile. There we go. That's good. This is emergency button. Guards will now hear the impact of dead bodies dropping to the ground. That's great. So AI has been improved, which is nice because it was getting a little too easy. Improved guard reactions to whistling. Improved disguise behavior in distress zones. That's nice. Hopefully it's made it a little bit better because you basically just got spotted everywhere no matter what. Shooting bows from Longship now consumes arrows, and players will now be able to air assassinate sleeping NPCs. Hell yeah. Improved fish reeling behavior. I have never actually gone fishing the game. I just stab them with a stabby stab thing. Addressed an issue where the horse couldn't use the gallop animation in combat. That was incredibly frustrating. Glad to see that's fixed. And the crowd will now cheer during drinking games. Hell yeah. And then reworked the sliding mechanic. Now quests, world events, and side activities. Addressed an issue where the assassination sequence wouldn't play for some targets. That happened a few times. Addressed various texture issues during cutscenes. Always good to see fixes to that. Addressed various issues where quests and world events that prevented players from completing them. Thank God, I know there's a lot of them. I've seen a lot of comments during live streams that players weren't even able to finish the game because of that. Players can no longer use the fishing tool or horn during the drunk walk with your drunk go home. The quest will now display the correct part of parent quest. That's nice. The memory stream can now be chosen when starting a new game if hold alternative option is set to on. It increased frequency of experienced travelers. Now there is a ton of user interface and HUD fixes. I'm not going to go over all of those, but I will leave the entire patch notes in the description if you want to check it out for yourself. There's just some various improvements here to the UI. Now abilities and skills. Addressed an issue where players couldn't use any abilities anymore when the Dive of the Valkyries ability was interrupted. And ally NPCs or horses can no longer trigger body traps. Some people just want to see the world burn, huh? Addressed a display issue where poisonous powder traps can become invisible after using Sign-in? Adjust chain assassination behavior. Players will no longer be able to assassinate a target who was tackled to the ground. Interesting. The secondary hand slot will no longer be available when a two-handed weapon is equipped. Free heavy dual wield skill. Okay. Flaming powder traps will now explode when walked over the arrow. Okay. Now raids. So here's something that's interesting I've had a lot of issues with. The Force Open will now be displayed correctly if nearby allies are in combat. And addressed an issue where allies would not help Ivor to open a door during raids. Both of those I've had major issues with. Glad to see they're fixed, especially because we're going to be getting river raids in December. Allies will now return to the Longship once the raid is complete, and added a timer until players can restart a raid that was just completed. Now, this does not mean that you'll be able to redo the full raid where you'll get the wealth from that raid either. I think this just means that when you do any of the raids in the world, you can't just instantly redo them. There's going to be a timer for them now. But there is good news on the horizon. River Raids will be coming in December with the Yule Festival update, which will allow you to actually redo these raids and add different difficulty options, I believe. I'm not 100% sure what's going to be coming with the River Raids update, but we will be able to do more raids very soon. So there's definitely a lot to take in from this particular update. I think they've done a good job of addressing a lot of the concerns the player base has had. They've definitely fixed a lot of things that I noticed as far as glitches and things that I've seen the community talk about while I'm live streaming. I definitely think there's more things that need to be fixed, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. And hopefully they continue to patch the game and make it better over time. We've got a lot of things to look forward in December, but definitely let me know what you think of the patch notes in the comments below. And what do you think of the quality versus performance options on the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5? I noticed during my testing that the performance option has a lot of frame dips and momentary freezes that really break up the gameplay for me. When I was playing on the quality options, while it was lower FPS, the overall gameplay was smoother. I wasn't seeing any frame dips or momentary freezes, which made the gameplay more enjoyable for me. While it was lower FPS and it took me a second to get used to, I really enjoyed not having those frame skips and momentary freezes. I will take stability over FPS any day if I'm forced to choose one or the two. So I do like the quality options. The game and lighting does look a bit better. If I could have the 60 FPS without the frame dips, obviously I would use that all day long. But I don't get frame dips with the quality. I don't know if it's an issue with my PlayStation 5, but I'd love to hear what the community thinks. Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next one.